Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to my deep guide. In today's video, we are revisiting the Kobo Sage and the battery life issue that I was talking about in my original in-depth review. As I stated many times, the main problem that I had with the Kobo Sage was the questionable battery life that I got in the initial testing results. Now, I fully understand that it has a 1200 milliamp battery, which is a thin battery, a smaller battery even than the Libre 2, but that allows the device to be extra thin, sexy, and really lovely to handle ergonomically. So those things I totally get, but the results that I got didn't really make too much sense to me, especially the reader performance, because I know that the writing performance, it is a stress test that I'm doing, but it is a consistent stress test. So I wanted to revisit that, and I also had a conversation with Kobo actually, and then we compared the test results. They did the testing methodology, we did this. The Sage received 2 updates since then, and then I redid the tests again and again to actually get proper findings, and I allowed the battery to have a couple of cycles so that I can get a more consistent and more realistic picture of what is the deal with the battery life on the Kobo Sage. So let's address that. This is a larger screen with the writing capabilities, and it has a smaller battery. Naturally, the battery life expectancy is lower to begin with, but the results that I got were too low. For consistent writing with the front light at 30%, I got 2.5 hours of consistent writing under these conditions per battery charge, which was really low. After the updates and the factory reset and the recharging of the battery, like 3 cycles of the battery so far, I get the same results still. 2.6 hours actually averaging whenever I repeat the same test. However, Kobo themselves redid the same test, and they get themselves 2.7 hours of battery life expectancy when doing that type of extreme testing circumstances of consistent writing. So that confirms that the writing portion of my test and the results that I got are pretty much bang on. So yeah, they were 2.7 hours, mine was 2.5, 2.6, but it's not a drastic difference. It's still in the super low range. So we had a conversation about it, Kobo and I, and they did explain the whole kind of thinking behind it and how it actually works. That there's like lots of optimizations inside. So for example, that high consumption is an extremely specific case scenario. So only when you're constantly writing do you have that super high consumption, but they have some built-in optimizations so that as soon as you lift the stylus, it no longer works with 4 cores and the battery consumption drops really significantly. And yeah, they definitely did do a lot of work on that. One of the reasonings they also placed is that the majority of users that are going to use Kobo Sage, they're probably going to be just marking up documents. And if that's the case, if your primary use of Kobo Sage is to read documents and books and mark up documents and books, then the battery life is going to be a lot more than those 2.7 hours or 2.5 hours, because you're not constantly writing. But I do that stress test of writing exactly the same way on every single device. So for me, it is imperative to have consistent testing methodology across the devices so that we can have comparable battery performance under the same conditions, right? And that's why I was testing it like that. And in those conditions, Kobo Sage objectively can't perform more than 2.7 hours per battery charge. So that is a factual state. Now, whether or not that is relevant to your personal case or to the personal case of an average user for Kobo Sage, that's a different matter entirely. But I think that it's an important thing for potential buyers to know, because maybe 9 out of 10 people will use it for marking up documents, and then the battery life for writing will not be a problem. But that 10th person, who is maybe a student who is taking a ton of notes, like maybe 50 pages of notes per day, and they wanted to get Sage for that specific use, they need to be aware of that. Then maybe this device is not for them and that it won't be able to perform that way, so that everybody can adjust their expectations accordingly. That's why I'm actually doing this. Now, the other thing to talk about are these little pins here, which are meant to hook up to the power sleep cover, which they also showed me, and I don't have it. I just saw it on the Zoom call when we were talking about it, and that was the whole idea, was that basically you write, and when you take a little bit of a break, you slip in the Sage into the power cover. It tops off the charge so that the device is ready to continue working. The power cover itself has another 1200 milliamp battery, but you don't have the full 100% of it. It's a little bit less than that, but still it is able to kind of top off the charge of your Kobo Sage during the day if your use case scenario is super active, or you're on a convention and you will need more activity out of your device. So that's something that's definitely there, and I like the user interface that I saw. I mean, you actually get the when you get to the power settings here, you will see e-reader, and then you will have the power cover and the levels of the power cover. And somebody asked, how does it actually charge? Well, you don't have a separate charger for the power cover thingy, but it actually charges via the device. So first the device charges, and then the cover is being charged, which actually makes sense because your higher priority is to charge the device and then the cover. So that's basically how all of that stuff works. Now on to the more important battery result, which was the reader stuff, because first and foremost, Kobo Sage is supposed to be the ultimate reader from Kobo, which design-wise, performance-wise, and all of these kind of things-wise, it definitely is. And that's what I said originally. It's like an amazing e-reader, really super cool. But I was questioning that battery because my initial tests revealed that it was something really low, around 4 or 5 hours of battery life expectancy for reading, which was anomalous. That's something that didn't make any sense to me. And I'm very happy to report that after a factory reset, 2 firmware updates, and 3 battery life cycles, Kobo Sage as a reader now performs as I would expect it to. Which means that depending on the front light, how far you go, I never go past 30-50%, but you can expect the battery life expectancy and reading somewhere between 16 and 25 hours of battery life. Of course, it depends on the front light, but if you're keeping it on the lower side of things, like 8% or something, I got the numbers that you could actually potentially get 24-25 hours of battery life per charge, which is excellent. That is right smack in the middle of what I was expecting this device actually to do, and a little bit better, because to be frank, to actually get that much battery life out of just a 1200 milliamp battery, that's quite something. That's why I wanted to do this revision, kind of clarify the battery situation and to formalize my conclusion about the Kobo Sage, because I wasn't able to give a final conclusion because of this battery issue. So now, with this kind of sorted, I want to finalize my conclusion, and it is that Kobo Sage is an absolutely fantastic e-reader, and it's a nice thing that it has some note-taking capabilities. As a dedicated note-taking device and just as a note-taker, it's not meant for that, and it's not a good device for that. First and foremost, because of the limited battery life that I talked about, and secondly, after doing so many tests, I really don't like this pen. It's not comfortable and it's not a good experience for extensive writing. However, if your use case scenario is primarily you're just reading, and you love the Kobo environment, and you're already in the Kobo environment, and you want to have the option of occasionally marking up books and marking up PDFs and things like that, then Kobo Sage in that kind of a use case scenario makes really a lot of sense. So I think it is important to understand and not just to assume that just because Kobo Sage is note-taking capable device, this is not a dedicated note taker. If you keep that in mind, and if that's something that you're looking for, like a uber sexy, super ergonomic and lovely 8-inch crispy screen, thin profile and waterproof and all of that kind of stuff. Excellent device. But if you want it to be a dedicated note-taking device, look elsewhere, because other devices can do things better. That's what Kobo Sage is, the ultimate reader with some note-taking capabilities, and as such, I think it's a really, really good device. Alright, I hope that this clarifies the whole battery issue and my attitude and my conclusion around the Kobo Sage, because it's something that I kind of lingered on, and I really don't like stuff like unfinished things. I like to kind of wrap things up and move forward, so now I'm able to do that. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, please like and subscribe and ding the notification bell down below to get notified when new videos for on my deep guide come out. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!